Raising kids, contributing at school, budgeting with an income that's next to nothing, following the law, giving up all hopes of even the littlest break, trying to live a life that nobody values or sees as human beings whose time will never be replaced. Just like everyone else, we have feelings and needs too. I just want to say those hurtful things that we read on Facebook, on current affair sites and the likes of that, they hurt. When you're putting us down, we're people with feelings. We take that to bed at night and we can't sleep with the horrible things that you say about us. Everyone has basic needs and rights, and low-income parents are just being pushed further and further into poverty. Why? Working people who are also low-income parents are punished. Single parents are looked down on and discriminated against by the government and society, while we are raising the future generation of this country. Why? Australia has no reason to hold such negativity against and punish the people who struggle the most. Why? Why? Now I'd like to introduce Godfrey from the National Workers Union.
It won't be long. The National Union of Workers stands in solidarity with the campaign to restore the single parents payment. I feel very strongly about this issue because I grew up in a sole parent family, and I don't believe that under the current regime that we have today I would have been able to have the same opportunities, the same ability to have an education and the same support. What I find quite disgusting about this issue is the out-of-touch assumption that rests behind these cuts. The assumption that there is decent, secure work there available for people, available for parents, that allows you to balance work and parenting responsibilities. We know the labour market doesn't work that way anymore, and it hasn't worked that way for quite some time. We know that people are being pushed back into the labour market, are much more likely to end up in short-term contract work, casual work, labour hire work. In that sort of work, you are far more likely to be a victim of sexual bullying, a victim of unsafe workplaces. In that sort of work, you're far more likely to be at the beck and call of your employer at the end of a text message, expected to drop everything and just go into work immediately, regardless of who you've got there to look after your children. And that's why the NUW feels very strongly about this issue, and that's part of the reason why we started up the Jobs You Can Count On campaign. Because we believe every single worker counts, every single person in this country counts, and everyone deserves the opportunity for a dignified start to life and respect and dignity in the workplace. That's why we're going around, we've got volunteers with community surveys where we want to hear from your stories, your opinions, because we're going to be launching the real story of insecure work at our Anti-Poverty Week event, Friday, 18th of October, Southern Cross Station at 8 a.m. We want to shine a spotlight on what's really going out there. And what I'll finish off on is I'm so glad that there's been courageous people who've come out here to talk, activists who are giving their all, and I think we in the union movement need to change the way that we're going about our things. And you're going to see some very interesting things out of the National Union of Workers in the next few months, where we're going to radically reshape our membership in response to what is likely a coalition government, so we can have, as a community, the strength and power to make our country civilised again. Thank you.
Thank you, Godfrey. I'm looking forward to that. Georgina from Newcastle. We must advocate for children. No child should have to go without regardless of the situation. As a taxpayer, I would much rather my taxes going to those in need, not the big politicians, big businesses or families who have no need free to receive the so-called bonuses that are in fact welfare. And now I have a really amazing friend and activist, Diane McAlpine, who is also going to share. Now, Diane's been working tirelessly on a documentary on single parents, which is to be released soon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Thank you, Diane.
Hi. I too, like Kay, am a success story. I actually was homeless for a long time. I struggled with heroin addiction, and I fell pregnant, and also luckily enough to get public housing, or I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for that. And I'm one of the people that the government was trying to target when they made these changes, because the changes were made in order to break the welfare dependency. I was actually already helping myself. I didn't need the government to interfere on my behalf, and I continue to work to better myself and give my kids a better quality of life. And since the changes, I've been rallying and finding all these other people that are struggling since the changes, and there's a lot of people living in cars, and I can't see how these changes were meant to help people to go out and get a job when people can't even pay their rent. They can't move forward, and I see the government as more like a bully that's interfering with our ability to move forward. I see that if they genuinely do want to change the welfare dependency, they should get to know the people, because they're so out of touch it's not funny, and they should fix the social welfare system, because when you're helping a person to, the people that are dependent on welfare, it's really hard for them. Like for me to get to where I am, I had to kick doors down, because already the cuts on welfare it's deteriorated, and it's appalling now. As Kate was saying, they're not selling, they're giving away public housing, so there's less housing, less affordable housing for people. And there's a thing called the Maslow theory, and that's about how a person can, if they have these principles that within the triangle, can better themselves. And one of the important, the fundamental ways of people having a better, moving forward and getting a better quality of life is having shelter. The other thing is food, and you don't have these things when you lose money, that you can't pay rent and the rent's too high, and the welfare's not there to help people that decide, okay, well, I don't want to live in the way that I'm living, I want to help myself, and they go to get help. Well, there's no freaking help, or you're limited by how much help you can get. So I'd really like to see us single parents and my children having the same benefits that Anthony Albanese and Kevin Rudd had when they were kids of single parents. They had free education. I'm now doing a TAFE course at the moment, doing a diploma, and at that TAFE they've cut 30% of their funding. How are people meant to get better education if there's no friggin' schooling there? They're privatising that as well. I did a Cert 2 because my job seeker told me to, and it was absolutely ridiculous. We just copied everything off the whiteboard, word for word. There was no learning. I don't even know what the hell I was meant to learn there. It was just word for word the same, every single person there, and there were so many women there that needed more support in other ways, but those things weren't addressed. There was nothing they were going to do with their Cert 2. It was just a friggin' joke. It was just pen on paper to prove, oh, look at us, we're doing the right thing, but they're not doing the right thing. It's all show, it's all crap, and it's because the government is so out of touch with the common man. There are so many people out there that are losing their jobs, and when they changed this thing to New Start, these single parents onto New Start, they didn't create any jobs that were for people working, so we could work within school hours and cater to school holidays. There was none of that. There was just go out and get a job. Forget that everyone, people are going offshore, all the factories and the businesses are going offshore because it's cheaper. Forget all that, just go get a job. I'd like to see one of those politicians come and live our life for about a month and they wouldn't last because they just don't have the backbone that you need to be a single parent. You have to be resourceful, you have to be strong. We're not victims, we're very strong, we're very capable, and we don't want to hand out, we want to hand up, you know. We just want the same respect that they give to the upper middle class. You know, you see all this social, you see all this middle class welfare with the, what's that, you know, how they're all squabbling over the 70 grand for the maternity leave, you know, like that's a load of crap. What does that do for you and me? How many people get 70 grand, you know, within this whole area here? How many people are going to benefit? You know, we want to have it, Australia, where you can afford to buy a house. We want Australia where you can have a job. You know, you're not in a job where you don't have any rights and you have to squabble for what little rights you have. You know, it's not on. It has to be back to the days of when Gough Whitlam was in, and he had it so that it was fair. And like, he's a really old guy now, and he still gets letters saying thank you for allowing me to have my, you know, to get free education, to be able to, you know, achieve the things they achieved in life. That's what it's all about. Good government is about how they look after their poor. It's not about breaking them down. It's not about taking away their rights. It's about giving them rights. It's about helping them to get out of the mess that they're in, the hole that they're in. And you don't push people that are already struggling. And it took a long time. Like this, it's 40 years this year that we would have celebrated having the single parents pension. And now it's a Labor government that's taken it away. I don't even question dealing with Liberal, because that guy's just an idiot. He's just doesn't have a clue. He's a very scary man, Mr. Abbott. But Mr. Rudd, I encourage him to start finding the heart that he talks so freely about, because they're just words. You know, it's not how you run a country. What he's doing is he's a shameful excuse of a man, and I'd like to see him being more of a leader and more of a visionary and creating a better Australia where everyone has rights, where everyone can have an education and everyone can afford to buy a house. Thank you.
Hundreds of fleets across the Indonesian archipelago. How would you feel if you had to have a storm in
Me to be a single mum and work with them for they're flexible, they're caring, they're understanding, and for me to be told to go get a full-time job, to lose the support that I have with such wonderful people is just really stressing for me. I struggle with what I'm doing now at work. Sometimes my mind just shuts down with, you know, the stress that I'm already under with just being a single mum. I'm a payroll officer, and sometimes that I just can't even think that what I have to do, and they're very understanding of that. And if I was to leave that situation, leave that position and to go into another job, what's my guarantee that they're going to be so kind and understanding? So with the cuts, it's brought across a lot of pressure onto me. I've seen a lot of pressure from other single parents, and I'm just so grateful that we have these online Facebook groups that we can come and we can encourage each other and sort of work together to try and change these cuts. This is the group that I belong to, United Sole Parents of Australia. Join our group if you're not in one, because it's really valuable to know that you're not alone. Throughout this time, I've also been working hard to try and change these cuts. I've been organising rallies, I've been organising petitions and the likes, and I just wanted to know, there is a petition going around somewhere, and I'm just wondering if that's still going around. Also, I've become a candidate for Family First in the Jellibrand electorate. They've asked me, I approached them because I wanted to know what their single parent policy was, like I was approaching all other political parties, and because I'm a Christian, I've got the same values as what they do, and they've invited me to come into their party and actually even write up the single parent policy for them because they didn't actually have one. They're fully supportive of single parents. They're fully supportive of also turning the parenting payment cuts around. Family, I'm not saying vote family first, I'm just saying that that's where I am, that's what I'm doing. There's plenty of parties out there that are also in support of changing the parenting cuts, and I just want to tell you that Labor and Liberal aren't looking at helping us single parents, and maybe we should just try and consider voting independence all the way this time, because they're the ones that are out there and they're the ones that are backing us and they're the ones that are supporting us. Next, I'd like to introduce Nick Costello.
G'day people. Apologies to the asylum seeker people. We won't take up much more of your time if we've intruded. I'm curious to know, just to hear, how many people here are single parents? Could you just put your hands up for a second, please? Not very many. How many people are here to support the asylum seekers? Lots? No one's listening. How many people are here to support justice? And that's something we all have in common, and I think that's very, very important. So I'm here to support single parents. I'm not a single parent myself, but I'm here to support them because I think what's happening to them is unfair. But I think there is an interesting thing going on here, and I'm very curious to know about why it's happening. We have a lot of people here today coming out to support asylum seekers, and that's a really, really good thing. Asylum seekers' only crime is a desire to escape violence, oppression and tyranny. They see Australia as a shining light for what they think is democracy and prosperity, and they want to be a part of it. But there's something about your concerns here that I don't fully understand. Why have you reserved your outrage for what is happening to people from beyond our borders when similar crimes are being committed against people who already live here? The crimes I speak of are crimes of omission, crimes of exclusion, crimes of selective morality. When we speak of the Australian ethos of ideas of democracy, mateship, egalitarianism and fair go for all, we tend to think of this country as immune from poverty, corruption and oppression, but it is not. And when we think of poverty and social exclusion in Australia, we tend to think that it is not a serious problem, because it is not the abject poverty we see in other parts of the world. And marginalised people in Australia need not live in fear of brutal violence as do many in war-torn nations. Yet many of our own citizens have something in common with those who come here in leaky boats. Because like those who have been banished to Manus Island, Papua New Guinea and Nauru, they have been told that they are not important, that they are not wanted, and that the poverty trap they find themselves in is of their own making. Of course, I'm talking about the countless thousands of our own citizens who have fallen on hard times, the unemployed, the homeless, the disabled, the working poor, the mentally ill, and now single parents whose parenting payment has been slashed and replaced with New Start allowance, which for many falls short of even being a subsistence income. Now, you may not agree that jobless people and single parents face the same level of direct threat as asylum seekers do, but in their relationship with the Australian government, they do. The experience they share is surgical separation from the Australian mainstream. Just as our government declared an immigration exclusion zone in waters where our territorial claim to fishing and mining exploration rights were retained, our political leaders have quarantined the problem of homelessness to protect an artificially inflated housing industry. And just as Papua New Guinea and Nauru have been called upon to carry the can for a situation our political leaders would rather hide from, The term welfare dependency has been coined to justify the banishment of many thousands of people, including single parents and their children, to a life of social exile and poverty. And so, while I applaud your desire to defend the rights of asylum seekers, I'm curious to know why the social exclusion of Australians in their own country is not met with the same level of concern. If you oppose the tyranny of politicians who seek to pass their responsibility for asylum seekers to somebody else, why do you not oppose also the calculated processes that condemn growing numbers of your fellow citizens to life in social exile? Surely the underlying moral question in either case is the same. Today, many of you are here to defend asylum seekers, while this little band of people over here and around here is taking the same stand that you are. We're both taking the same stand. At the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason, to defend the moral fibre of the land we call home, and to make it known that we're here not just to look after ourselves, but to look after each other. I live for the day when we can put aside the tribal wars and the petty squabbles that seem to be dominating politics, the things that divide us. And I'm looking forward to the day when we can all say with one voice that this is the land of the fair go, this is our land, and that justice will be served. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Nick. So I just wanted to thank the Greens especially for all the hard work that they've been putting in for us and putting in the bills into Parliament to try and make changes for us. I'd also like to thank the Socialist Alliance Party for their support as well in the Parliament and trying to get these changes for us. I'm glad that Family First are now come on board and also supporting single parents. I'm glad that the National Union of Workers is also going to make changes in the workplace for us. We need more flexible work hours. We need employers to realise that single mums need employment and that they need to be flexible so that we can do that. We need childcare arrangements that are flexible too. Where's the weekend childcare? We need weekend childcare so that we can go to work for those that do retail and any other position that requires weekend work. And it doesn't need to be at a higher cost because we can't afford it. The people that have been on Newstart since 2006 have suffered in poverty for all these years. Julia Gillard put us down to their level to make us equal. Why would she put more people into poverty instead of lifting them up out of poverty and giving them the support that we all deserve, that our children deserve? Our children have the right to life. Give us our life back and give the lives back to our children that they deserve. I want to thank everyone for coming here today, and I want you to remember that single parents need the support. We need our dignity back. We need to know that the public support us and that they don't think that we're just the bums that everyone says we are, because we're hard working, we study, and we deserve a life and we deserve the support. I'm sorry.